Hi everyone, I'm Lorenzo from Soundmachines, and today we will see another module from the Eurotouch series lineup, the T-FORMANT. T-FORMANT is a multi-parameter resonant formal filter and oscillator. Use it for vocal-based synthesis and to add distortion or flanging to external signals or its internal oscillator following the volt per octave standard. The Eurotouch series differs from other modules with their ability to self-modulate themselves using the touch strips, inherited from our most successful module, the LS1 light strip. The slider allows us to record automation up to 20 seconds long, giving us the ability to create long evolving sequences or short events. The touch strips control 4 different parameters, some of which can also be shared with a dedicated CV input or potentiometer. The total value will be a sum of them. We can dial in values depending on the position, from lower to higher values, from bottom to top. The top button is used to select between the hold mode or the loop or one-shot playback modes. The lower button is used to switch between the 4 sliders, with a dedicated LED indicating which parameter is currently controlled by the slider. The reset input is used to trigger or reset the playback of the automations. And now, let's patch something. We can start by patching the output from the modular 114 oscillator to the input of the T-FORMANT. Let's now hear the sounds of the formant filter. When the formant filter knob is all the way down, it allows the signal to pass through without any effect. When we start turning the knob, it will start filtering with the first vocal sound. There are 9 vocals total. Let's hear them. The second knob, the Q, is the resonance amount for the filter. We also added a simple flanger and distortion. We do not control over internal parameters, except for the amounts applied to the sound. We can also hear how the effects work with the samples, for example, this drum loop. In the T-FORMANT, each parameter, formant, Q, flange and dist, can be controlled using the awesome slider and a CV input. Let's now see how we can use the slider, for example, to control the formant. Whenever we touch the strip, we will generate a voltage that controls the current parameter. We can see which parameter we are currently controlling by looking at the relative LED indicator in the button below the slider. The normal behavior of the slider is to maintain the value until we are not touching it anymore, returning to 0. We can also set the slider to hold the value by pressing the button once on the top of the slider. When the hold mode is active, the red LED will stay lit. Whenever we generate an internal voltage via the slider or the knob and we apply some external voltage via the CV input, the T-FORMANT will sum all the values. For example, if we touch in the middle of the strip and hold that value and we start moving the knob, we will hear that at some point the knob will stop having an effect on the formant parameter. That's because we exceeded the maximum internal value of around 10 volts. If we now apply a negative voltage LFO into the T-FORMANT CV input, it will be summed, and the total voltage will come back to a range where we can hear changes in the sound. If both the slider and the knob are all the way down, any negative voltage applied to the CV input will not have an effect. Now it's time to record an automation. To start recording, we must put our finger on the slider first, and this will be our automation starting point. Then, once we keep our finger pressed on the record button on top, it will start blinking. When we lift our finger from the recording button, the automation will start looping. If we apply a gate signal to the reset input, for example in this case from the button output on the modular 114, this automation will reset and start from the beginning. An automation can also be set to one-shot mode. Let's automate the flange parameter, and to select it we have to press the lower button multiple times to scroll between the parameters until we reach the flange. We will see the relative LED to the desired mode light up. To set an automation to be one shot, keep press the record button for a second. The LED will start blinking 2 times in a row. Let's record an automation as before, but when we stop recording we will see that the automation will not start the playback automatically. That's because it's waiting for a gate signal into the reset input that, in this case, also doubles as a start or play input. We can also set an already recorded automation to be in one-shot mode. Let's go back to the format parameter. Simply press the record button while the automation is playing. Now we will see that the LED is blinking 2 times fast. We can also undo this action by keep press the record button again. If we want some already recorded automation to not be affected by the reset input, which is global by default, we can simply keep press the lower button while we are in desired parameter. The 4 LEDs will blink, and now we can see from the relative LED that the parameter will now not be affected by the reset. The LEDs for the parameters excluded from the reset inputs will blink every second or so. Another cool feature of the T-FORMANT is that it can be a VCO. To activate it, you have to send to the volt per octave input a voltage higher than around 1 volt. This effectively allows us to switch via CV between the oscillator sound and the external input to obtain interesting sound bending possibilities. Let's patch the output from the modular 114 back to the input of the T-FORMANT. The oscillator sound passes through the formant filter, the flanger and the distortion. Here's a quick sound demo, receiving CV from an off-camera artist. If we sync the BPMs of the sequencer, in this case the arches, with the sound loop from the Music Thing modular radio music, we can actually obtain some cool experimental music.